love Grandpa last year. Or do I look at the camera as well? Just at here or there? Yeah. No, but I didn't understand that it was two different. That they didn't know each other or understand how that could have happened.
Okay, yeah, in that case.
It's so coincidental. The best story is the story of our two great-grandmothers, who both at 16 years old?
No, they were into the 2021 like that, but young, and they both had the same kind of background where they grew up with a family, very intact and close, and yet to think that they would be leaving their country to be with this man who they loved and married and left them both, and one from Sicily and one from Naples. So it was very different places, you're right. And then they both come over and had a terrible trip on the steerage in the bottom of the ship.
That's what to me blows me away, is thinking about how they physically got here.
I know.
You know, and just in school learning about the conditions in the ships that people did come across in, but the length of that journey and how scary it must have been not knowing where
they were going.
You're going, or if you could even get in once you got here.
That's right. And they both went to Ellis Island, and they were examined completely and everything that they had to go through at that time, very patiently. And my mother would tell me the story of two young girls, sisters, because they had a rash on their face, they made them go back. And that's how strict the rules were at that time. But you know, they both had the firstborn son here and then came here to make a new life. They had an uncle. There's always somebody who's going to give them a little help in the family. So the family, like the Pope says, La Familia, it's very important. Even then, more, because they depended on them. The women didn't know a job. They could not get a job at that time. It was not heard of. You know, they stay home, they took care of their children. But the men also had to be acclimated to get the job and to speak English as well as they could. And they couldn't at first, but they did. Gradually, my father told me they pick up some words that they could make themselves understood. And they were lucky if they were working with some Italian people, so they could really speak better and understand each other. It wasn't easy. It was very difficult. There's no doubt about it.
Something that to me, you know, I know that Grandpa was the first Italian-American governor, and he was quoted saying, you know, after 200 years, we finally did it when he became governor. But I remember, you know, you both telling me the stories about how, and all of us the stories about how much Italians were discriminated against.
Absolutely.
And it's not the same today, you know, talk about progress, right?
That's right.
And there are definitely other marginalized groups.
Yes.
But did you feel when you came to America, did you personally feel growing up having Italian parents that you were discriminated against?
No, because I lived in an Italian community. We were like insulated, and that was a good thing. And then when they say that they didn't treat the Italian immigrants so well, it's true. It's true. Maybe because of the lack of language. But my father wanted to work even on Saturday because he could buy another pair of shoes for Frankie or something like that. And they didn't like that. And they turned out to be communists. My father told us, because they didn't believe in it. It's a philosophy. Yes. But my father's philosophy was to work as hard as he could to make more for the family, see? When my father came to this country as a young married man, he left my mother with the firstborn son, Frank, in Sicily. But when he came here, he loved the freedom. He felt such freedom in this country, unlike in his own hometown, that you could do anything you wanted. You work hard, nobody will stop you. And if you have good ideas, use them, and nobody would stop you. And you can reach for the stars. You had that feeling of ambition and doing whatever you want to do. He didn't have to come to America. He was really very easily able to live in Italy, a good life, because he was a master carpenter. And he was making a good salary. The fact is that he was born in Pennsylvania, Barnesboro, Pennsylvania. And all his life he wanted to know, someday I have to go back and see this place. It was the coal mines, very bad to live there. But my father also took us for a trip when I was a little girl to Barnesboro, Pennsylvania, to see the coal mines where Nonno Francesco was working. And you can't believe, it was like a miracle, un miracolo, that the old people could remember Francesco, because he was very strong. And he put this big, full of coal onto the track. Nobody could do it. He did it. And they would tell us the story that it was something.
When was the first time you went to Italy?
I went when I was very young with my little sister at the time, and Aunt Nancy and Uncle Joe, and he was just a little boy. And that was my first trip with my mother and father. And it was very wonderful. Could have been even nicer if the rest of the family, but it was just the two little ones my father took.
So where did you go in Italy?
Well, we went from Naples by car all the way to Sicily. Yeah.
That's the trip we did together.
Yes, yes.
When I was like 14, which is how old you were.
That's right, that's right.
Look at
At
that.
the time, yes, a coincidence.
We went to Taormina.
Yes, that was so
Remember?
beautiful, beautiful.
I got stung by a bee.
Oh.
And I remember that we had these oranges that were this color red.
Yes,
They
that's
were
right.
red, but they were oranges.
I don't think you get them any other place
No.
except Italy.
And then I thought it was like a plum, but it was an olive.
Yes,
So
beautiful.
produce is bigger
See how
and
you
better in
remember
Italy.
all that. Yeah. Yeah. The beauty is unbelievable in Sicily and all over Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Every part of Italy has their own beauty.
What's sort of neat about Italy is that I feel like I was there almost 100 years ago based upon, looking around you, and the architecture is all preserved, and
Yes.
the streets are all cobblestone, and in most cities, right?
Yes.
And I think that's what's so neat, is that you really cannot forget the history of
That's right.
of where you are, because it's so present and vibrant everywhere.
Yeah.
The culture's so vibrant, and it's what I imagine it was back in the old days.
Yes, that doesn't change.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty. You're right. That's the age of the country, and the gorgeous buildings and the culture and everything else, the architecture, the art, everything is always there to be seen and enjoyed by many people. Many people come and go to Italy. I met the Pope.
Yes, you
Pope
did.
Francis, the very first time I have met a Pope. And I was in Naples on a conference for Mentoring USA Italia, and lo and behold, I heard that it was a wonderful yearly celebration where the Pope had to come and speak to the people in Naples. And I mean, there were 3,000 people at least, if not more. And the Pope came and spoke. It was something like a miracle to see him. He is the most humanitarian Pope I could ever think I could meet.
What does the Pope mean for Italians? Because I know here, I had some friends who didn't totally understand why we're making such a big deal, and I think that's because religion is not as popular amongst my generation, statistically. But when you were growing up, I know that you've spent time at the Vatican, and that you have a cousin who lives in Vatican City, right?
Yes.
What did the Pope mean to you growing up?
Well, I mean, the Pope is
And what
like
does it
the
mean to you now?
pinnacle of the religion. I mean, he is the speaking voice from God to all of us to give us lessons and the future beliefs that we should continue to emanate. And we happen to have one now who is a great humanitarian, and he understands that the basic of all peoples is la familia, your
Right.
family. If you don't take care of your family, everybody suffers within that scope of humanity.
I'm sitting in his seat right now. And this is the seat he would sit in every time you came into the house. And I know that when I called him, he'd be sitting in this seat. And he had this, where is it? The pad that he would sit on, the
well,
piece
for
of
his
wood.
back, he needed a seat. You know,
Yes,
a hard seat.
and then the back of it had the New York State flag.
Yes, yes. You remember that?
Of course. But he always sat here, and you could, we just have so many memories sitting right here, hours going by.
And you could ask him any
Anything.
question,
And
and he knew the answer.
Oh yes, of course. Or what I think was so amazing about him is that when I was younger, Grandpa asked me how old I was, and I said 8, and he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because it was just my birthday." And he said, "Well, how do you know that you were turning 8?" "Because I was born in 8 years ago." "How do you know that?" "Because my parents told me." "How do you know that your parents weren't lying?" "Because the birth certificate says so." "Well, how do you know that they didn't make a mistake on the birth certificate?" And that, to really shake an 8-year-old to truly understand that you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's right.
And
That's
that you have to, what he taught me with that, I think that story, like the lesson of that story to me is that you have to always be open-minded and never feel or know the right answer.
That's right.
And that's having the right answer isn't the way to win an argument, isn't the way
Right. But he
forward.
had the will to question you.
To question you,
Yes,
to make you
question
realize
all
you
the
don't know
time.
anything.
That's right.
Right.
And to think about it, and
Right.
come to your own solution.
And he can argue any side of an issue.
Yes. You know, he always felt blessed that he had 13 granddaughters, beautiful girls. And you're all so different. And you're just so terrific. And he loved every one of you so much. Yeah, he was so pleased to have you.
I know that his kids will say that he softened in a sense, and he was like the best version of the dad he's ever been as a grandfather to us. And I could never imagine how he could be anything less any less sweet or less warm than he was. But we are so unbelievably lucky to actually have a moral compass, a grandpa he has set our sense of what's right and what's wrong.
That's
and
right.
all of us, every single one of us in the family. And it's so simple, and he does so in a way that makes any person from any religion or any person from no religion who's just a human be able to understand. And I think that he was a humanist is what I like to refer to him as.
He'd be very happy to hear you say all this if you were here.
And
wonderful.
when we all get together, what we would always do is make speeches about what we're thankful for, right?
That's right.
Everyone would go around, and
That's right.
doesn't
The
matter how old you are,
holiday time, we always take time for
you
that.
have to say what you're thankful for,
That's right.
or you have to say something to everyone.
Every granddaughter got this letter. It's a letter to my granddaughters, and it's written November 1999. I'm writing this letter to you and all our other granddaughters.
Do you remember when he decided to write this?
No, actually, he kept it very much to himself, very quiet. When it was done, I was surprised. It was his joy to do this for you girls. And he knew that he could make it very clear to you in this, and you would keep it for all time. I see here this paragraph I think is very meaningful right here. At some point you will probably find that filling your own basket with goodies, satisfying your own wants and desires for personal comfort will not be enough to make you truly happy. Chances are you will discover that to be fulfilled, you will have to learn on some fundamental belief, some basic purpose in life that gives you a sense of meaningfulness and significance, and that answers the questions. Why were we born in the first place? Without an answer, all the accumulating of material goods can become nothing more than a frantic fidgeting, a frantic attempt to fill the space between birth and eternity. This is very deep.
I read it once a week.
Yeah, he gets very philosophical.
And then this is the best part. This is where he breaks it down.
Go ahead.
Ready?
Let me read this part you like the most.
It happens to a lot of people who spend their whole life so involved with the challenge of just staying alive in some decent condition that they don't get to think much about why they were born in the first place. Others get past the struggle, then wander aimlessly as they approach the end, satisfying whatever appetites are left until there are no more appetites or no strength to feed them. They look for answers in the world around them, in the words of wiser people, in the leadership of some heroic figure. But the answers prove elusive. No Moses comes to them, and they die without ever having an answer. Don't let it happen to you. You don't need another Moses. I think that there is an idea that can give you all the direction you need. An idea simple enough for everyone to understand, sensible enough for everyone to accept, sweet enough to inspire us. It's the idea that is the basis of the Judeo-Christian religion that helped give birth to America and that helps sustain our nation today. It began with the Jewish people 4,000 years ago, who described it in two principles, tzedakah and tikkun olam. Tzedakah means that all of us, wherever we are, whatever our color or accent, are children of one God. Brothers and sisters who owe one another respect and dignity. And the second principle, tikkun olam, tells us we should find ways to come together in order to repair the universe, to make it stronger and sweeter. The Christians borrowed both principles. The first we call charity, the obligation to love one another. And the second teaches us, as it taught the Jews, that God made the world but didn't finish it, that he left the world to us so that we could, side by side, working together, collaborate in completion and complete the work of creation by making this world as good as it can possibly be. But God knows how grand the world is and how small we are. He's not going to expect any miracles from you. All he asks is that you do what you can. If you rise to great power and are able to end a war, or be a governor, or find a cure for cancer, wonderful. But if the best you can do is comfort a single soul in need of simple friendship, well, that's wonderful too. If one does what one can to make things better, that's all God will ask. It's a job you can work at every minute that you live, and it's a job that can make your life worth living, no matter what else happens. So live, learn, and love, and have a happy new millennium, Grandpa Mario. It's so simple, and it makes so much sense.
Yes, yes.
And for a recent college graduate, the words of wisdom that you need.
That's all you need to know.
But that's how we all, I'm so proud to be part of this family, because when you say the word Cuomo in New York or anywhere, people, no one says anything bad, right? I'm so proud to be a Cuomo, because what everyone does is help someone else, help other people. That's what they've made their living, is helping other people. So I'm really proud and grateful.
Proud of you.
I love you.
Molto orgoglio. I've always been proselytizing about this with the family, especially because I took 2 years of French, and I majored in Spanish.
Right.
Because Italian wasn't given. Even when I was in high school, I couldn't take Italian.
Or when I was in high school.
You didn't.
They didn't offer it.
I know. The same thing goes. That's why I took it upon myself with my little group in the National Italian American Foundation to get everybody together, the Italian Americans, and say, what are we doing? Our language is as beautiful as any other country's language. Let's get going. We have to get it started. I found out that for sure there was a reason that the country, the mother country of the language, were not giving the funding that they were supposed to give to this country, you know, and to the committee that gets the languages involved with the languages. And they don't facilitate having it in the schools because they weren't giving their part of the funding. It was that simple. So, and Grandpa, as busy as he was at that time and not feeling so great physically, he went with me to Italy, and we went to see the chief, Berlusconi, you know, of the government at the time, and we were pleased that he understood. Maybe no one was telling him. I don't understand, but it took just that kind of a force to go there, tell him everything. That what was lacking in this country, it's not like they don't like the Italian language or the Italians. I mean, they love the food, they love the design, they love everything. And why they were not taking the language was because there was no language to be taught in the schools. And now we finally hit the mark and to get it done.
And I know that you and I think Aunt Margaret helped to make it Italian and SAT 2, so a standardized test that kids can take or to get into college, or maybe it was at the AP, the Advanced Placement course.
Well, it was given into the AP language so that they could take the test.
Right.
Yes.
And there wasn't
Advanced
one before.
Placement language. So that meant a lot. We have to do more to make sure everybody has at least the opportunity to do that and have their children take it in school. Mentoring USA, well, actually it's the New York State Mentoring Program. It started early on, about 1985, because my husband heard about the terrible statistics of young people in prison. And that means that they're not doing well in school and they give up. And you don't want that to continue. So I found out that mother of 5 children, all my grandchildren, they taught me a lot, that if I could at least get someone they could look at and respect and be one-to-one, so that this mentor was there just for that one boy, one girl, the mentor. One-to-one works, and it has been very successful. So the mentor is really that kind of person who we train, however, and to tell them all the obligations and everything, and then it lasts for a whole year time, and I can't tell you how successful it was. We had 10,000 children we covered in New York State. So what happens is when Mario lost the election in 1994, Governor Pataki in the second week closed the whole program from Buffalo to Long Island. I was surprised. I'm in this apartment. I had my work cut out for me, but Andrew came to me and said, Mom, I have a solution. You know that program, the model? It's no more. It was closed. He gave me bad news and the good news. The good news, he said, keep the model and now go national and all the way to California and also Italy and all the other countries that want it. So it's national and international, Mentoring USA. And it worked also very well because the symbol of the one-to-one with a mentor for a child is perfect.
Grandpa loved apple pie.
Yes.
He loved his apple pie.
Yeah.
I made him apple pie when I was 11, and I got so many brownie points for doing that.
I never forgot it.
And our meals together and our holidays were are very much Italian, right? With
Yes.
our Easter cacolis and our cacoli bread and our 7 fish
Yes, that's right.
at Christmas.
That's right.
Um,
He'd be very proud to hear you say all this.
I remember I always felt so proud to, when people would ask me what my family ate for Christmas, I said, 7 fish. You don't eat 7 different kinds of fish? And they said, no. I said, oh, it's because I'm Italian.
But you are really a chef on your own. I mean, you can do any kind of meal.
Because my mom.
But do you like Italian the most? You
Yes.
appreciate it?
Yes. It's the best ingredients. It's tomatoes, cheese, and bread
Yeah. Yes, that's
in
right.
different forms, really.
Yeah, a little basil, parsley.
A little bit of this, a little of that. What is your lesson to your granddaughters today, your Italian-American granddaughters?
What do I want?
What is one of the pieces of wisdom that you want to tell us?
Oh, well, I think you should never forget your heritage. You know, if it happens to be, with us, very small, in a sense, it's really Italian, but your boyfriend is from a different background. But it's good to learn what background he is from and enjoy it and share it. So you should share your background with him as well and be proud of it always, because there's nothing not to be proud of. And I think that's what you've learned since you're a little girl. And I think that stays. As a grandparent, I'm thrilled that all of you get that. You understand and you're faithful to your own heritage, but you are open to other heritage of others.
I've gotten to travel to Italy more than most people have, and I feel so fortunate to have gotten to explore some different regions. But I definitely do feel like there is a part of Italy that is home in a sense, without with it also being a foreign land.
Yes.
I'm excited to explore more. We're going to go together
I'd love that.
to your programs.
Yes. All right. That's a deal.
Deal.